August 12th came and went. Gravity remained operational throughout. The Strait of Hormuz, however, did not. 2 UAE tankers were attacked there this week. A magnitude 7.7 earthquake struck Flores Island in Indonesia this morning. At least 47 dead. Rescue teams blocked by landslides. And the Ohio Valley is in an active flood emergency right now. Indianapolis seeing the worst flooding in 30 years. The Whitewater River spilling into Ohio communities. And more rain is in the forecast for this week. I'm Skelly. It's Sunday. Let's go. Day 168 of the Iran war. Here's where the diplomacy stands as of this Sunday. And I want to lay it out clearly because the picture has gotten considerably more complicated this week. With talks to end the war stalled and traditional mediators, Qatar, Oman, Pakistan, Turkey, running out of runway, the Trump administration has quietly expanded its diplomatic outreach to include some unlikely suspects. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met in person in Washington with the Foreign Minister of Austria on Tuesday. He held a phone call with the Foreign Minister of Greece on Wednesday. Neither Austria nor Greece has a prominent role in the Middle East diplomacy, but both have relationships with Iran that the U.S. is now trying to leverage. Austria, Greece. I want to acknowledge that when I started covering this war in May, I did not have Austria and Greece on my mediator list. While discussions between Iran and Oman and between Iran and Pakistan, Turkey and Qatar persist on an uneven and unpredictable pace, the U.S. administration is casting a wider net, reaching out to any country that might be able to pressure Tehran or ease its headline position where traditional mediators have not succeeded. Meanwhile, on the water this week, 2 UAE tankers were attacked while transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. says the strait is open. Iran says the U.S. does not control the strait. Ships are still being hit. On August 12th, the same day the internet predicted gravity would turn off, Trump insisted the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's response was to say it could prolong the war with the U.S. indefinitely. Prolong the war indefinitely. This is not a de-escalation statement. The U.S. said it could maintain its blockade of Iran indefinitely as well. Both sides have now said they can sustain this indefinitely. Here's the practical read on where this stands. Iran is continuing talks with Oman over a temporary corridor through the strait. A single lane, Iranian controlled, with Iran collecting fees. The U.S. has not agreed to Iranian fee collection. Negotiators thought they had a deal 3 weeks ago, only to see Iran resume attacks on ships. The 60-day MOU signed June 17th expires this week. It produced no permanent deal. The strait is not open. The war is in a diplomatic holding pattern that has now consumed every major region mediator and is branching out into Central Europe. The gas prices remain elevated. The brief dip in late June and early July, when the ceasefire briefly held, has long since reversed. 2 new tankers were hit this week. All the prep stories that we have talked about that relate to the Strait of Hormuz are still in effect. Prepare accordingly. Story 2 happened this morning at 5:58 a.m. local time, Saturday, August 15th. A magnitude 7.7 earthquake struck off the coast of Flores Island in East Nusa Tenggara province in Indonesia. It marks the 11th 7.0 magnitude or higher earthquake to hit the Ring of Fire so far this year. The epicenter was 42 miles northwest of the city of Ende. At least 47 people have been killed. Rescue teams have not been able to reach Nagako, the region closest to the epicenter, because landslides have blocked the roads and disrupted communications. Buildings and homes collapsed. Hospital patients at several facilities were evacuated outdoors. Staff moved beds, IV stands, and oxygen cylinders outside to set up temporary treatment areas in the open air. Indonesia's Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency issued a tsunami warning for the affected coastlines, urging residents to move to higher ground and stay away from beaches and riverbanks. The warning has since been lifted. Monitoring shows no significant sea level changes posing a threat to coastal communities. The same stretch of coastline was struck by a similar powerful earthquake in December of 1992, when the quake and the tsunami it triggered killed more than 2,500 people on Flores Island. The death toll is expected to climb. This is a breaking story as of this recording. We covered the Venezuela earthquake on this program back in June. I made the same point then that I'm going to make now, not because it's convenient, but because the mechanism keeps repeating and the lesson keeps mattering. A 7.7 magnitude earthquake hits at 5:58 a.m. in the morning. People are asleep. There is no warning. The shaking lasts, depending on proximity, between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. Roads are blocked by landslides. Rescue teams cannot reach the areas hardest hit. Communications are down. Hospitals are evacuating patients into the parking lots, and the people are waiting for help and cannot physically get to them yet. That last detail, rescue teams are unable to reach Nagakio because landslides block the roads, is the detail I want you to sit with. The first hour after a major earthquake, the most affected areas are often the hardest to reach. Not because help isn't coming, but because the event that killed people also destroyed the paths to get to them. That means the people who survived the initial event are, in most critical early hours, entirely dependent on what they already have. What that looks like practically, in the Ohio Valley context, isn't dramatic. It's a few basic things. Water for 72 hours minimum, not in the store, in your home, stored, because of a major seismic event, and the new Madrid seismic zone is real. It is historically capable of major events, and we have mentioned it on this program before. Disrupts your water main, the water at the store is also gone, and the road to the store may also be blocked. A first aid kit that can handle trauma, not just a box of bandages. Structural collapse produces injuries that require pressure dressings, tourniquets, and the knowledge to use them. A communications plan that doesn't require cell towers, which may be down. A battery-powered radio, a family rally point, a neighborhood check-in plan, so someone knows to look for you. Indonesia is one of the world's most seismically active countries, a nation of 270 million people across 17,000 islands, sitting directly on the Pacific Ring of Fire, at the intersection of the Eurasian, Pacific, and Australian tectonic plates. The people of Flores Island woke up this morning to a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. They did not choose their geography. They did not choose their Saturday morning. The prepping community does not prepare because we think we can predict which Saturday it happens. We prepare because we understand that Saturdays like this one exist, and that being ready is a decision you make on a different Saturday, a quiet one, when nothing is happening, so that when the ground moves, you already know what to do. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Flores Island today. The death toll will likely be higher by next Sunday. And the prep lesson, as always, is not about them. It's about you and the quiet Saturdays you still have. Use it. Our third story today, and this one is happening right here. This week, a series of relentless thunderstorms brought devastating flooding to the Midwest, and the Ohio Valley is directly in the middle of it. On Tuesday, a deadly windstorm tore through the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. On Wednesday, torrential rain prompted the National Weather Service to issue severe flash flood emergencies, the highest level of flood warning, for life-threatening flash flooding across east central Indiana, with more than 700,000 customers still without power. Rare flash flood emergencies were issued for part of eastern Indiana, experienced what forecasters described as potentially catastrophic flooding, after some areas received more than 2 months' worth of rain in a matter of days. The highest storm totals reported was 11.23 inches over 2 days near Newcastle, Indiana. A culvert washing out took an entire section of Riley Road with it. Indiana Governor Mike Braun declared a statewide disaster emergency and mobilized the National Guard. 3 storm-related deaths were recorded in Indiana this week. Emergency management officials in Dearborn County, Indiana, and neighboring Hamilton County, Ohio, home of Cincinnati, ordered residents along the Whitewater River to evacuate Thursday night as rapidly rising water caused the authorities to describe as unprecedented and dangerous flooding. The Whitewater River flooded about half a dozen small communities along the southern part of the Ohio-Indiana state line. Residents of communities straddling the Indiana-Ohio border were displaced this week. Franklin County, Indiana, on the eastern border of the state, just west of Cincinnati, first responders conducted 45 water rescues on Thursday alone. Indianapolis is experiencing its most severe flooding in more than 30 years. The mayor ordered residents in Ravenwood, Rocky Ripple, and others impacted areas to evacuate immediately. 3 people have died. More than 150,000 were without power as of Saturday afternoon. Indiana and Ohio have been among the hardest hit states, with rainfall totaling more than 11 inches in some areas. The National Weather Service is predicting widespread storms this weekend through the Ohio Valley, Midwest, and the Central Appalachians, bringing additional precipitation to already saturated areas that had just started to see floodwaters recede. If you're in the Ohio Valley, and you probably are because this is where this program lives, this is not a distant story. This is the Whitewater River. This is Hamilton County. This is communities you may know, roads you may drive, and rivers you may live near. I want to address something specific about this event, because the phrase once in 1,000 years rainfall has been appearing in coverage, and I want to be precise about what it means and what it doesn't. A 1,000-year rainfall event does not mean it happens once every 1,000 years. It means the statistical probability of that rainfall total occurring in any given year is 1 in 1,000. In a changing climate where extreme precipitation events are becoming more frequent, that statistical framing is increasingly inadequate. What it actually means, particularly, is that it is a rainfall total that existing infrastructure was not designed to handle. Your storm drains weren't sized for it. Your culverts weren't built for it. Your bridge clearance weren't calculated for it. Which means roads wash out, culverts collapse, rivers jump their banks into neighborhoods that have never have flooded before, and people who didn't think they needed flood insurance because they weren't in the designated flood zone find water in their homes. Here is the Ohio Valley Flood Prep Checklist. And I want to be specific because we're still in an active flooding situation with more rain in the forecast this weekend. Know your elevation. If you don't know whether your property is in a flood zone area, look it up today. FEMA's Flood Map Service Center is free and public. Your address, your flood zone, your risk. 5 minutes. Do it. Never drive through flooded water. This bears repeating every time. 4 people went into the Missouri River in Delaware County, Indiana during the flooding this weekend. 3 were rescued. Rescue operations for the 4th were still ongoing as of Thursday. 6 inches of moving water can knock a person down. 2 feet can carry away a vehicle. The road on the other side of the water may not exist anymore. Have a go bag ready, near the door. Not in the attic, not in the basement where it'll be underwater. Near the door. Documents in a waterproof bag. 3 days of medication. Phone chargers, cash, a change of clothes. Flood evacuations can happen with less notice than any other disaster. Know your evacuation route and your alternative, because the first one will frequently be underwater. And if you are told to evacuate, evacuate. I know this seems obvious, but every flood event produces the same story. People who stayed because they didn't think it would get that bad, and who had to be rescued by boat from their second-story floor at 2 a.m. The people conducting those rescues are putting their lives at risk for each of you. More storms are expected through the Ohio Valley this weekend. The ground is saturated. The rivers are still elevated. Additional waterfall on saturated watershed produces flooding faster and more severely than the same rainfall would have a week ago. This is an active situation as of this recording. Stay informed through local NWS alerts. Have your phone charged. Know your neighbors, especially elderly neighbors or those without transportation. And if you're watching this from a dry house on high ground, keep an eye on the people around you who may not be so fortunate. And that's your week. The Iran war is on day 168. There was a 7.7 earthquake struck Flores Island in Indonesia this morning. And the Ohio Valley is in an active flood emergency right now, with more rain forecast to move through this weekend. A brief note on the grocery price forecast we've been tracking since June. September is 2 weeks away. The harvest price spike is still on schedule. We're covering in full next week. But if you have the capacity to act on food storage this week, the window is still open. Barely. I'm Skelly. This has been the Skelly Report. Stay dry, Ohio Valley, and we will see you next Sunday. Assuming we're all still here.